grouped evenly. Davidson was a few dollars up, and Brower a few down. For Brower to go near you was he had a stout about cards for most of it. He was adroit at both the traditional 5-card draw and the newer 7-card stop. Sometimes he made me because the myself notice one thing. Although he drank quite heavily, by the time Big Wheels, A Tale of the Laundry Game, Milkman number 2, read by Dylan Baker. Rocky and Leo, both drunk as the last lords of creation, cruised slowly down Culver Street and then out along Balfour Avenue toward Crescent. They were ensconced in Rocky's 1957 Chrysler. Between them, balanced with drunken care on the monstrous hump of the Chrysler's drive shaft, sat a case of Iron City beer. It was their second case of the evening. The evening had actually begun at 4 in the afternoon, which was punch-out time at the laundry. "Shit on a shingle," Rocky said, stopping at the red blinker light above the intersection of Balfour Avenue and Highway 99. He did not look for traffic in either direction, but did cast a sly glance behind them. A half-full can of IC, emblazoned with a colorful picture of Terry Bradshaw, rested against his crotch. He took a swig and then turned left on 99. The universal joint made a thick, grunting sound as they started chugging along in second gear. The Chrysler had lost its first gear some 2 weeks ago. "Give me a shit, I'll share on that," Leo said. Leo held his watch up until it was almost touching the tip.
I'm driving to Cincinnati.
And then
hi, everybody out there. I can only answer questions this way.
Almost 8. Shit on a
Right now I'm in Lexington, Kentucky.
They passed a sign which read Pittsburgh 44. "Nobody is going to inspect this here Detroit, honey," Leo said. "Nobody in his right mind at least." Rocky fetched third gear. The Universal moaned to itself, and the Chrysler began to have the automotive equivalent of a petit
no, I'm not trying to avoid a storm in any way. I'm just going up to do a dedicated run that I do up in Michigan.
And the speedometer climbed tiredly to 40.
I wouldn't drive don't get me wrong, I wouldn't drive to a hurricane.
When they reached the intersection of Highway 99,
up this far away from,
Road,
the epicenter, I'm not going to be too worried about it.
Between the townships of Crescent and Devon for some 8 miles, Rocky turned onto the latter almost upon a whim, although perhaps even then some memory of old stiff socks had begun to stir deep down in the past from Rocky's subconscious. He and Leo had been driving more or less at random since leaving work. It was the last day of June, and the inspection sticker on Rocky's Chrysler would become invalid at exactly 12:01 a.m. tomorrow, 4 hours from right now. Less than 4 hours from right now. Rocky found this eventuality almost too painful to contemplate, and Leo didn't care. It was not his car. Also, he had drunk enough Iron City beer to reach a state of deep cerebral paralysis. Devon Road wound through the only heavily wooded area of Crescent. Great bunches of homes and boats crowded in on both sides, lush and alive and full of moving shadows as night began to close over southwestern Pennsylvania. The area was known, in fact, as the Devon Woods. It had attained capital letter status after the torture murder of a young girl and her boyfriend in 1968. The couple had been
Hey
parted
there, southbound. I ain't seen
and were
nothing to speak
found
of
in the
going all the way back
boyfriend's
to Bucky's
1959
exit
Merc.
83.
The Merc had real leather seats.
I ain't saying nothing to seriously to bother you if you don't know her. I mean, other than just the
Also, in the front seat, the trunk, and the
10-4,
glove
that's every day. Y'all have a
The
safe
killer
one.
had never been found. Chug Humber better not stall out. Rocky said. We're 90 miles from no place.
Yeah, I'm in Tennessee. No, I'm sorry. I just came out of Tennessee 113 or so miles ago. I'm in Lexington, Kentucky, heading to Cincinnati, Ohio.
The glow was not really intact, but the kid was close enough to make argument purpose. It was the new shopping center.
Yeah, I tell you what, it wouldn't have nothing to do with the hurricane. If I'm in Florida, I want to escape, all right. But it's the Florida man, all the Floridians that I want to escape from. With all due respect, I can't even say that if you're in Florida nuts.
Finally got back in his lane again. Oops, he said.
I did live there for about 8 years.
They had been working together at the New Adams Laundry since September, when Leo had been hired as Rocky's washroom helper. Leo was a road
Hey, I appreciate that, man. Thanks for the like.
who looked as if
I
he
sure
might
appreciate it. I
have
appreciate you
quite a lot of
watching.
jail.
It's just a place for people to gather.
He was saving
No
$20
censorship,
a
no
week
nothing, man.
to
This is
buy a used
I'm a free
Kawasaki
speech
motorcycle.
absolutist. You come on
He said
here.
he was going
I'm not going to
west
give you any
despite
ideas
when cold
because
weather came.
last time I did that, it never
held a
stopped.
grand
The
total of
idea that I
12
gave.
jobs
So,
since he
I mean,
and
whatever you
the
got to do, come in here and say hi to each other. Ask questions about whatever you want. Right now I'm listening to a Stephen King story called Big Wheels. It's a short story. It's called Big Wheels. A tale of, I can't remember. I'd have to look. I'm hauling ass up through here trying to get to my dedicated run, so
To take the I-75 north exit toward Georgetown, Cincinnati.
I gotta pay a little bit of attention. And yes, sir, this part of this 75 looks like Ohio from Michigan all the way to Florida, just about. There's some spots in the Smoky Mountains that are different, but vast majority of it's a little boring.
His wife,
But right now I'm in, once again, I'm in Lexington, Kentucky. I'm coming up to the 65 split on 75, heading north at an undisclosed speed.
that she wanted a divorce on grounds of mental cruelty. Two things about this situation had driven Rocky to carry a concealed weapon. One, he had been coupled. And two, he had been coupled by the, for Christ's sakes, milkman.
Your sister's is going crazy. Well, tell them daggone sisters to calm the hell down, man. Or I'm gonna drive this van up in there and, get them to behave the old-fashioned way. With a stern talking to.
Could you just fucking flop down into the gutter and die? Even to Rock, who had never progressed.
Use the right two lanes to take the I-75 north exit.
You got a good one.
Who had never progressed much beyond reading the clears.
Continue for 74 miles.
Reading the clears.
I was gonna go up through Louisville, but you gotta go up through where I'm going to. If I went up through Louisville, I'd have to go up through Indianapolis. Indian assholes, we all call it, us truck drivers. Indiana, and it ain't in me, man. Last two times I came through Cincinnati, which I go through it usually twice a day, it was gridlock, man. It's not talking about last night coming through. It was, I want to say 25-minute delay, so I went around her. And then I got to Lexington, and which is almost always breezy. Right here where I'm at, I got off right up here at the, no, I already passed. It was looking at 117. I got off and had to go around, but it took me through neighborhoods. You wouldn't believe what it took me to last night. That would have been, that'd have been. Oh, thanks a lot for the sub. Appreciate her. Now, I don't want anybody to get any delusions of grandeur. I think I can spin this thing around if I wanted to. There's some way I could spin this around, but I'm, oh, here we go. I'm not in an 18-wheeler. Now, I do have a CB radio, which I use. If you were here earlier, you heard me using it. And I have what we call a super condo. I got my, the microwave oven back there, and refrigerator, and my bunk's right beside me here. And it goes back about 4 feet of my living space. And it's pretty comfy. But I'm not in an 18-wheeler. Sorry, I got a crazy beside me. I got to get out of here. He was standing beside me there for a while. I don't like being boxed in if I don't have to be. I don't like being between a semi-truck and some Sunday driver in an expedition that just hauled ass to get up beside me, but then stayed like basically in my blind spot. I have to look around to see them. Can't see them out of the mirror where they're riding. People love to do that. But we're heading right now from Lexington, Kentucky to Cincinnati, Ohio. I'm gonna cut y'all loose there once we get to Cincinnati. I'm heading up to Michigan, parts undisclosed. This is something I don't usually do. I don't mind live streaming. I don't think about it. Put up shorts. I think I'm going to get someplace where, maybe you folks out there never seen it before. Tunnels through the mountains, or, Brooklyn Bridge or the GW. Different things in New York. I love New York City. A lot of truck drivers say New York will avoid it for the plague. But you know what, folks? Listen, I'm going to start rambling here because I sit alone. I like a hermit in this truck all the time. But what I'm going to try to do is watch for your questions, and I'll answer them. I see them, and I'd rather, I'd like for y'all to look out the windshield like I do. Listen to the story that I do. And let's see, right now we're kind of up on the 125. And so we're going to be together up until about the 185. So very easy math. Got about 65 miles or somewhere around 50 minutes to be together. Y'all enjoy the ride. Buckle your seatbelts now. Even I buckle my seatbelt. Been doing this 31 years, and I can tell y'all one thing. There's old truck drivers, and there's bold and crazy truck drivers. But there's no old, bold, crazy truck drivers. It's just a fact. So y'all sit back, relax, and we're going to listen to Big Wheels, a tale of... Oh, I can look it up right here. A Tale of the Laundry Game, Milkman number 2.
All dogs. He left his house on Oak Street that morning and headed for the dairy, hoping to catch Spike when he finished his morning deliveries. Rocky stopped at the Four Corners Tavern on the way to have a few beers. 6, 8, maybe 20. It was hard to remember. While he was drinking, his wife called the cops. They were waiting for him on the corner of Oak and Balfour. Rocky was searched, and one of the cops plucked the .32 from his waistband. "I think you're going away for a while, my friend," the cop who found the gun told him. And that was just what Rocky did. He spent the next 4 months washing sheets and pillowcases for the state of Pennsylvania. During this period, his wife got a Nevada divorce, and when Rocky got out of the slam, she was living with Spike Milligan in a Dakin Street apartment house with a pink flamingo on the front lawn. In addition to his 2 older children, Rocky still more or less assumed they were his. The couple were now possessed of an infant who was every bit as trout-eyed as his daddy. They were also possessed of $15 a week in alimony. Rocky, I think I'm getting car sick, Leo said. Couldn't we just pull over and drink? I gotta get a sticker on my wheels, Rocky said. This is important. Man's no good without his wheels. Nobody in his right mind is gonna inspect this. I told you that. It ain't got no turn signals. They blank if I step on the brake at the same time. And anybody who don't step on his brakes when he's making a turn is looking to do a rollover. Window on this side's cracked. I'll roll it down. What if the inspectionist asks you to roll it up so he can check it? I'll burn that bridge when I come to it, Rocky said coolly. He tossed his beer can out and got a refill. This new one had Franco Harris on it. Apparently, the Iron City Company was playing the Steelers' greatest hits this summer. He popped the top, beer splurted. Wish I had a woman, Leo said, looking into the dark. He smiled strangely. If you had a woman, you'd never get out west. What a woman does is keep a man from getting any further west. That's how they operate. That is their mission. Didn't...
Yeah, I don't want to fuck the story up. Excuse my language, but I don't mess the story up. But Rocky's, he's hilarious. This is actually a hilarious little story.
Out west. Yeah, and I'm going too. You'll never go, Rocky said. Pretty soon, you'll have a woman. Next, you'll have abalone, alimony. You know, women always lead up to alimony. Cars are better. Stick to cars. Pretty hard to screw a car. You'd be surprised, Rocky said, and giggled. The woods had begun to straggle away into new dwellings. Lights twinkled up on the left, and Rocky suddenly slammed on the brakes. The brake lights and turn signals both went on at once. It was a home wiring job. Leo lurched forward, spilling beer on the seat. What? Look, Rocky said. I think I know that fella. There was a tumorous, ramshackle garage and Citgo filling station on the left side of the road. The sign in front said, Bob's Gas and Service. Bob Driscoll, proprietor. Front end alignment, our specialty. Defend your God-given right to bear arms. And at the very bottom, State Inspection Station number 72. Nobody in his right mind, Leo began again. It's Bobby Driscoll, Rocky cried. Me and Bobby Driscoll went to school together. We got it knocked. Bet your fur. He pulled in unevenly, headlights illuminating the open door of the garage bay. He popped the clutch and roared toward it. A stoop-shouldered man in a green coverall ran out, making frantic stopping gestures. That's Bob! Rocky yelled exultantly. Hey! Stiff socks! They ran into the side of the garage. The Chrysler had another seizure, Grand Mal this time. A small yellow flame appeared at the end of the sagging tailpipe, followed by a puff of blue smoke. The car stalled gratefully. Leo lurched forward, spilling more beer. Rocky keyed the engine and backed off for another try. Bob Driscoll ran over, profanity spilling out of his mouth in colorful streamers. He was waving his arms. The hell you think you're doing, you goddamn son of Bobby! Rocky yelled, his delight nearly orgasmic. Hey, stiff socks! What you say, buddy? Bob peered in through Rocky's window. He had a twisted, tired face. that was mostly hidden in the shadow thrown by the bill of his cap. "Who called me stiff socks?" "Me!" Rocky fairly screamed. "It's me, you old finger diddler. It's your old buddy." "Who in the hell? Johnny Rockwell. You gone blind as well as foolish?" Cautiously. "Rocky?" "Yeah, you son of a bitch." Christ Jesus. Slow, unwilling pleasure seeped across Bob's face. "I ain't seen you since the Catamounts game anyway." "Shoot, want that some hot ticket?" Rocky slapped his thigh, sending up a gusher of Iron City. Leo burped. "Sure it was. Only time we ever won our class. Even then, we couldn't seem to win the championship. Say, you beat hell out of the side of my garage, Rocky. Yeah, same old stiff socks, same old guy. You ain't changed, even a hair." Rocky belatedly peeked as far under the visor of the baseball cap as he could see, hoping this was true. It appeared, however, that old Stiff Socks had gone either partially or completely bald. "Jesus, ain't it something, running into you like this? Did you finally marry Marcy Drew?" "Hell yeah, back in '70. Where were you?" "Jail, most probably." "Listen, muffa, can you inspect this baby?" Caution again. "You mean your car?" Rocky cackled. "No, my old hog leg. Sure, my car. Can you?" Bob opened his mouth to say no. "This here's an old friend of mine, Leo Edwards." "Leo, want you meet the only basketball player from Crescent High who didn't change his sweat socks for 4 years." "Pleased to meet you," Leo said, doing his duty just as his mother had instructed on one of the occasions when that lady was sober. Rocky cackled. "Want a beer, Stiffy?" Bob opened his mouth to say no. "Here's a little crab catcher," Rocky exclaimed. He popped the top. The beer, crazied up by the headlong run into Driscoll's garage, down Rocky's wrist. Rocky shoved it into Bob's hand. Bob sipped quickly to keep his own hand from being flooded. "Rocky, we close in just a second. Let me back up. I got some crazy here." Rocky dragged the gear shift lever up into reverse, popped the clutch, skinned a gas pump, and then drove the Chrysler jerkily inside. He was out in a minute, shaking Bob's free hand like a politician. Bob looked dazed. Leo sat in the car, tipping a fresh beer. He was also farting. A lot of beer always made him fart. "Hey," Rocky said, staggering around a pile of rusty hubcaps. "You remember Diana Rucklehouse?" "Sure do," Bob said. An unwilling grin came to his mouth. "She was the one with the..." He cupped his hands in front of his chest. Rocky howled. "That's her! You got it, muffa! She's still in town." "I think she moved to..." "Figures," Rocky said. "The ones who don't stay always move. You can put a sticker on this pig, can't you?" "Well, my wife said she'd wait supper and we close at..." "Jesus, it sure put a help on me if you could. I'd sure appreciate it. I could do some personal laundry for your wife. That's what I do. Wash at New Adams." "And I am learning," Leo said, and farted again. "Washers, dainties, whatever you want. What you say, Bobby?" "Well, I suppose I could look her over." "Sure," Rocky said, clapping Bob on the back and winking at Leo. Same old stiff socks. What a guy.
There's an object on road ahead.
A guy. Yeah, Bob said, sighing. He pulled on his beer, his oily fingers mostly obscuring Mean Joe Green's face. You beat hell out of your bumper, Rocky. Give it some class. Goddamn car needs some class. But it's one big motherfucking set of wheels, you know what I mean? Yeah, I guess. Hey, I want you to meet the guy I work with. Leo, this is the only basketball player from... You introduced us already, Bob said with a soft, despairing smile. Howdy doody, Leo said. He fumbled for another can of Iron City. Silvery lines like railroad tracks glimpsed at high noon on a hot, clear day were beginning to trace their way across his field of vision. Crescent High, who didn't change his... Wanna show me your headlights, Rocky? Bob asked. Sure, great lights. Halogen or nitrogen or some fucking gin. They got class. Pop those little crab catchers right the fuck on, Leo. Leo turned on the windshield wipers. That's good, Bob said patiently. He took a big swallow of beer. Now how about the lights? Leo popped on the headlights. High beam? Leo tapped for the dimmer switch with his left foot. He was pretty sure it was down there someplace, and finally he happened upon it. The high beams threw Rocky and Bob into sharp relief, like exhibits in a police lineup. Fucking nitrogen headlights, what'd I tell you? Rocky cried, and then cackled. Goddamn Bobby! Seeing you is better than getting a check in the mail. How about the turn signals? Bob asked. Leo smiled vaguely at Bob and did nothing. Better let me do it, Rocky said. He bumped his head a good one as he got in behind the wheel. The kid don't feel too good, I don't think. He cramped down on the brake at the same time he flicked up the turn blinker. Okay, Bob said, but does it work without the brake? Does it say anywhere in the motor vehicle inspection manual that it has to? Rocky asked craftily. Bob sighed. His wife was waiting dinner. His wife had large floppy breasts and blonde hair that was black at the roots. His wife was partial to donuts by the dozen, a product sold at the local Giant Eagle store. When his wife came to the garage on Thursday nights for her bingo money, her hair was usually done up in large green roll.
There's a stalled vehicle ahead.
Large green rollers under a green chiffon scarf. This made her head look like a futuristic AM/FM radio. Once, near 3 a.m, he had wakened and looked at her slack paper face in the soulless graveyard glare of the streetlight outside their bedroom window. He had thought how easy it could be. Just jackknife over on top of her. Just drive a knee into her gut so she would lose her air and be unable to scream. Just screw both hands around her neck. Then just put her in the tub and whack her into prime cuts and mail her away someplace to Robert Driscoll, care of General Delivery. Any old place. Lima, Indiana, North Pole, New Hampshire, Intercourse, Pennsylvania, Kunkel, Iowa, any old place. It could be done. God knew it had been done in the past. No, he told Rocky. I guess it doesn't say any place in the regs that they have to work on their own. Exactly. In so many words. He upended the can and the rest of the beer gurgled down his throat. It was warm in the garage and he had had no supper. He could feel the beer rise immediately into his mind. Hey, Stiff Socks just came up empty, Rocky said. Hand up a brew, Leo. No, Rocky, I really... Leo, who was seeing none too well, finally happened on a can. Want a wide receiver? He asked, and passed the can to Rocky. Rocky handed it to Bob, whose demurrals petered out as he held the can's cold actuality in his hand. It bore the smiling face of Lynn Swan. He opened it. Leo farted homily to close the transaction. All of them drank from football player cans for a moment. Porn work? Bob finally asked, breaking the silence apologetically. Sure. Rocky hit the ring with his elbow. It emitted a feeble squeak. Battery's a little low, though. They drank in silence. That goddamn rat was as big as a cocker spaniel, Leo exclaimed. Kid's carrying quite a load, Rocky explained. Bob thought about it. Yeah, he said. This struck Rocky's funny bone, and he cackled through a mouthful of beer. A little trickled out of his nose, and this made Bob laugh. It did Rocky good to hear him, because Bob had looked like one sad sack when they had rolled in. They drank in silence a while more. Diana Rucklehouse, Bob said meditatively. Rocky sniggered. Bob chuckled and held his hands out in front of his chest. Rocky laughed and held his own out even further. Bob guffawed. You remember that picture of Ursula Andress that Tinker Johnson pasted on Old Lady Fremantle's bulletin board? Rocky howled, and he drawed on those two big old jahoobies, and she just about had a heart attack. You two can laugh, Leo said morosely, and farted. Bob blinked at him. Huh? Laugh, Leo said. I said, you two can laugh. Neither of you has got a hole in your back. Don't listen to him, Rocky said, a trifle uneasily. Kid's got a skinful. You got a hole in your back? Bob asked Leo. The laundry, Leo said, smiling. We got these big washers. See, only we call them wheels. They're laundry wheels. That's why we call them wheels. I load them, I pull them, I load them again. Put the shit in dirty, take the shit out clean. That's what I do. And I do it with class. He looked at Bob with insane confidence. Got a hole in my back from doing it, though. Yeah? Bob was looking at Leo with fascination. Rocky shifted uneasily. There's a hole in the roof, Leo said. Right over the third wheel. They're round, see? So we call them wheels. When it rains, the water comes down, drop, drop, drop. Each drop hits me, whap, in the back. Now I got a hole there, like this. He made a shallow curve with one hand. Wanna see? He don't want to see any such deformity, Rocky shouted. We're talking about old times here, and there ain't no effing hole in your back anyway. I want to see it, Bob said. They're round, so we call it the laundry, Leo said. Rocky smiled and clapped Leo on the shoulder. No more of this talk. You could be walking home, my good little buddy. Now, why don't you hand me up my namesake if there's one left? Leo peered down into the carton of beer, and after a while, he handed up a can with Rocky Blyer on it. "And a way to go," Rocky said, cheerful again. The entire case was gone an hour later, and Rocky sent Leo stumbling up the road to Pauline's superette for more. Leo's eyes were ferret red by this time, and his shirt had come untucked. He was trying, with myopic concentration, to get his camels out of his rolled-up shirt sleeve. Bob was in the bathroom, urinating and singing the school song. "Don't wanna walk up there," Leo muttered. "Yeah, but you're too fucking drunk to drive." Leo walked in a drunken semicircle, still trying to coax his cigarettes out of his shirt sleeve. "It's dark and cold. Do you want to get a sticker on that car or not?" Rocky hissed at him. He had begun to see weird things at the edges of his vision. The most persistent was a huge bug wrapped in spider silk in the far corner. Leo looked at him with his scarlet eyes. "Ain't my car," he said with bogus cunning. "And you'll never ride in it again, neither, if you don't go and get that beer," Rocky said. He glanced fearfully at the dead bug in the corner. "You just try me and see if I'm kidding." "Okay," Leo whined. "Okay, you don't have to get pissy about it." He walked off the road twice on his way up to the corner and once on the way back. When he finally achieved the warmth and light of the garage again, both of them were singing the school song. Bob had managed, by hook or by crook, to get the Chrysler up on the lift. He was wandering around underneath it, peering at the rusty exhaust system. "There's some holes in your straight pipe," he said. "Ain't no stray pipes under there," Rocky said. They both found this spit-sprayingly funny. "Beer's here," Leo announced, put the case down, sat on a wheel rim, and fell immediately into a half-doze. He had swallowed 3 himself on the way back to lighten the load. Rocky handed Bob a beer and held one himself. "Race? Just like old times?" "Sure," Bob said. He smiled tightly. In his mind's eye, he could see himself in the cockpit of a low-to-the-ground, streamlined Formula One racer, one hand resting cockily on the wheel as he waited for the drop of the flag, the other touching his lucky piece, the hood ornament from a '59 Mercury. He had forgotten Rocky's straight pipe and his blousy wife with her transistorized hair curlers. They opened their beers and chugged them. It was a dead heat. Both dropped their cans to the cracked concrete and raised their middle fingers at the same time. Their belches echoed off the walls like rifle shots. "Just like old times," Bob said, sounding forlorn. "Nothing's just like old times, Rocky." "I know it," Rocky agreed. He struggled for a deep, luminous thought and found it. "We're getting older by the day, Stiffy." Bob sighed and belched again. Leo farted in the corner and began to hum "Get Off My Cloud." "Try again?" Rocky asked, handing Bob another beer. "Might as well," Bob said. "Might just as well, Rocky, my boy." The case Leo had brought back was gone by midnight, and the new inspection was was affixed on the side of Rocky's windshield at a slightly crazy angle. Rocky had made out the pertinent information himself before slapping the sticker on, working carefully to copy over the numbers from the tattered and greasy registration he had finally found in the glove compartment. He had to work carefully because he was seeing triple. Bob sat cross-legged on the floor like a yoga master, a half-empty can of IC in front of him. He was staring fixedly at nothing. "Well, you sure saved my life, Bob," Rocky said. He kicked Leo in the ribs to wake him up. Leo grunted and woofed. His lids flickered briefly, closed, then flew open wide when Rocky footed him again. "We home yet, Rocky? You just shake her easy, Bobby," Rocky cried cheerfully.
God, just
He
fuck
hooked
this
his
whole
fingers
night up.
into Leo's armpit and yanked. Leo came to his feet, screaming. Rocky half carried him around the Chrysler and shoved him into the passenger seat. "We'll stop back and do her again sometime."
Oh, man.
"Those were the days," Bob said. He had grown wet-eyed. "Since then, everything just gets worse and worse. You know it?" "I know it," Rocky said. "Everything has been refitted and be-shitted, but you just keep your thumb on it. And don't do anything I wouldn't do." "My wife ain't laid me in a year and a half," Bob said. But the words were blanketed by the coughing misfire of Rocky's engine. Bob got to his feet and watched the Chrysler back out of the bay, taking a little wood from the left side of the door. Leo hung out the window, smiling like an idiot saint. "Come by the laundry sometime, Skinner. I'll show you the hole in my back. I'll show you my wheels. I'll show you..." Rocky's arm suddenly shot out like a vaudeville hook, pulled him into the dimness. "Bye, Philip!" Rocky yelled. The Chrysler did a drunken slalom around the 3 gas pump islands and bucketed off into the night. Bob watched until the taillights were only flicker flies, and then walked carefully back inside the garage. On his cluttered workbench was a chrome ornament from some old car. He began to play with it, and soon he was crying cheap tears for the old days. Later, sometime after 3 in the morning, he strangled his wife, and then burned down the house to make it look like an accident.
Oh, my goodness.
"Jesus," Rocky said to Leo as Bob's garage shrank to the point of white light behind them. "How about that? Oh, Stiffy." Rocky had reached that stage of drunkenness where every part of himself seemed gone, except for a tiny, glowing coal of sobriety somewhere deep in the middle of his mind. Leo did not reply. In the pale green light thrown by the dashboard instruments, he looked like the dormouse at Alice's tea party. He was...
There's a stalled vehicle ahead.
He was really bombarded, Rocky went on. He drove on the left side of the road for a while, and then the Chrysler wandered back. Good thing for you, he probably won't remember what you told him. Another time it could be different. How many times do I have to tell you? You gotta shut up about this idea that you got a fucking hole in your back. You know I got a hole in my back. Well, so what? It's my hole, that's so what. And I'll talk about my hole whenever I... He looked around suddenly. Truck behind us just pulled out of that side road. No lights. Rocky looked up into the rearview mirror. Yes, the truck was there, and its shape was distinctive. It was a milk truck. He didn't have to read Kramer's Dairy on the side to know whose it was either. "It's Spike," Rocky said fearfully. "It's Spike Milligan. Jesus, I thought he only made morning deliveries." "Who?" Rocky didn't answer. A tight, drunk grin spread over his lower face. It did not touch his eyes, which were now huge and red like spirit lamps. He suddenly floored the Chrysler, which belched blue oil smoke and reluctantly creaked its way up to 60. "Hey, you're too drunk to go this fast. You're..." Leo paused vaguely, seeming to lose track of his message. The trees and houses raced by them, vague blurs in the graveyard of 1215. They blew by a stop sign and flew over a large bump, leaving the road for a moment afterwards. When they came down, the low-hung muffler struck a spark on the asphalt. In the back, cans clinked and rattled. The faces of Pittsburgh Steelers players rolled back in the light, sometimes in shadow. "I was fooling," Leo said wildly. "There ain't no truck. It's him, and he kills people," Rocky screamed. "I seen his bug back in the garage. God damn!" They roared up Southern Hill on the wrong side of the road. A station wagon coming in the other direction skidded crazily over the gravel shoulder and down into the ditch, getting out of their way. Leo looked behind him. The road was empty. "Rocky, come and get me, Spike!" Rocky screamed. "You just come on and get me!" The Chrysler had reached 80, a speed which Rocky, in a more sober frame of mind, would not have believed possible. They came around the turn which leads onto the Johnson Flat Road, smoke spurting up from Rocky's bald tires. The Chrysler screamed into the night like a ghost, lights searching the empty road ahead. Suddenly, a 1959 Mercury roared at them out of the dark, straddling the center line. Rocky screamed and threw his hands up in front of his face. Leo had just time to see the Mercury was missing its hood ornament before the crash came. Half a mile behind, lights flickered on at a side crossing, and a milk truck with Kramer's Dairy written on the side pulled out and began to move toward the pillar of flame and the twisted, blackening hulks in the center of the road. It moved at a sedate speed. The transistor dangling by its strap from the meat hook played rhythm and blues. "That's it," Spike said. "Now we're going over to Bob Driscoll's house. He thinks he's got gasoline out in his garage, but I'm not sure he does. This has been one very long day. Wouldn't you agree?" But when he turned around, the back of the truck was empty. Even the bug was gone.
Yeah, that's a typical Stephen King story, you know. Like, just dudes talking, while they're talking, getting drunk, ridiculous. Some ridiculous too. Just trying to get his inspection sticker on his hunk of garbage. And you know, the Bob, he's fantasizing about killing his wife while they're there drinking, and just random, just pops out in the story. Then of course, Bob at the end goes home, murders his wife, burns his house down, and then Leo and Rocky. I mean, it's very much implied that they just got in a head-on collision going, you know, 80 mile an hour. They're dead. It's just, I like Stephen King, his stories, as a human, whatever. It's my opinion on him is as important as his opinion on shit. It's just whatever. I'm a truck driver. I'm a good truck driver. I'll stick with that. I mean, I'll give somebody my opinion if they ask, but pretty much they're all like buttholes. Everybody's got one, and they all break wind from time to time. That's just a good story. But Stephen King, the short story is the master of the short story, honestly. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end. Some of his novels, there's a beginning and a middle, but it just isn't no end. It just ends them. You can tell he could just keep on writing forever on that. Some that come to mind are The Stand, Under the Dome, 11/23/68, whatever it is. Great books too. Those are great books, but they just go on and on and on. All right, tell you what, probably put on another story, or what do y'all think? There's someone out there. You know, press 1 if you want another story. Press 2 if you just want the truck sounds. Maybe no one's there. Getting close, somewhere around 10 miles, and we'll be able to see Cincinnati from the top of the hill in Florence.
Morning Deliveries. Milkman number 1. Read by Dylan Baker. The dawn washed slowly down Culver Street. To anyone awake inside, the night was
Oh, it's
still
awful kind of
black.
you to say. I've been doing it for a long
Dawn
time,
had
but
actually been
you know what?
tiptoeing around for
I'll make a really quick comment on that. Whoever says there that I drive real well. Plays 106. Truck driving it's an interesting job, and the best way I can explain it are hours and hours. In fact, sometimes days, weeks, months, and possibly years of what you're seeing now. What's been happening for the last however long you've been hanging out with me, last 30, 40 minutes of just mindless tedium, boredom, nothing to do, surrounded by seconds of utter terror. Because you know, you get I've seen it happen. I've seen semi trucks come across the road in front of me and right across the highway burst into flame. I've seen every kind of accident you can imagine over the years, some that I narrowly missed. And I've been involved in a couple accidents. I had a lady pull out in front of me when I was driving an 18-wheeler in Alabama, doing 65 down a back highway that was marked for 65.
We found a faster route via US 31 North, which saves 8 minutes. If you prefer to stay on the current route, tap no thanks.
I'll take it. So anyway, the point being, that's what it is. It's days and days of mindless boredom, surrounded by seconds of just mind-blowing terror. So I'm gonna put this story on. We're gonna go. Looks like we're still gonna see.
This route avoids a road closure near Indianapolis. You are on the fastest route. You should reach your destination by 5:22 p.m.
It's hard to do while I'm driving. You just said I drive well. I don't want to be bad now and start looking at the map too much while I'm driving. See, 369. Exact same amount of miles. All right, Indiana it is. I go up 75 every day. So, thanks for coming along and thank you for the compliment. Put your seatbelt on, damn it.
An hour. In the big maple on the corner of Culver and Balfour Avenue, a red squirrel blinked and turned its insomniac stare on the sleeping house. The dawn washed slowly down Culver Street. To anyone awake inside, the night was still black, but dawn had actually been tiptoeing around for almost half an hour. In the big maple on the corner of Culver and Balfour Avenue, a red squirrel blinked and turned its insomniac stare on the sleeping houses. Halfway down the block, a sparrow alighted in the Mackenzie's bird bath and fluttered pearly drops about itself. An ant bumbled along the gutter and happened upon a tiny crumb of chocolate in a discarded candy wrapper. The night breeze that had rustled leaves and billowed curtains now packed up. The maple on the corner gave a last rustly shiver and was still, waiting for the full overture that would follow this quiet prologue. A band of faint light tinged the eastern sky. The darksome whippoorwill went off duty, and the chickadees came to tentative life, still hesitant, as if afraid to greet the day on their own. The squirrel disappeared into a puckered hole in the fork of the maple. The sparrow fluttered to the lip of the bird bath and paused. The ant also paused over his treasure, like a librarian ruminating over a folio edition. Culver Street trembled silently on the sunlit edge of the planet, that moving straight edge astronomers call the Terminator. A sound grew quietly out of the silence, swelling unobtrusively until it seemed it had always been there, hidden under the greater noises of the night so lately past. It grew, took on clarity, and became the decorously muffled motor of a milk truck. It turned from Balfour onto Culver. It was a fine beige-colored truck with red lettering on the sides. The squirrel popped out of the puckered mouth of its hole like a tongue, checked on the truck, and then spied a likely-looking bit of nest fodder. It hurried down the trunk, head first after it. The sparrow took wing. The ant took what chocolate it could manage and headed for its hill. The chickadees began to sing more loudly. On the next block, a dog barked. The letters on the sides of the milk truck read, Kramer's Dairy. There was a picture of a bottle of milk, and below that, morning deliveries, our specialty. The milkman wore a blue-gray uniform and a cocked hat. Written over the pocket in gold thread was a name, Spike. He was whistling over the comfortable rattle of bottles in ice behind him. He pulled the truck into the curb at the Mackenzie's house, took his milk case from the floor beside him, and swung out onto the sidewalk. He paused for a moment to sniff the air, fresh and new and infinitely mysterious. And then he strode strongly up the walk to the door. A small square of white paper was held to the mailbox by a magnet that looked like a tomato. Spike read what was written there closely and slowly, as one might read a message he had found in an old bottle crusted with salt. 1 quart milk, 1 Econ cream, 1 orange juice. Thanks, Nella M. Spike the milkman looked at his hand case thoughtfully, set it down, and from it produced the milk and cream. He inspected the sheet again, lifted the tomato magnet to make sure he had not missed a period, comma, or dash, which would change the complexion of things, nodded, replaced the magnet, picked up his case, and went back to the truck. The back of the milk truck was damp and black and cool. There was a sunken, buggy smell in its air. It mixed uneasily with the smell of dairy products. The orange juice was behind the deadly nightshade. He pulled a carton out of the ice, nodded again, and went back up the walk. He put the carton of juice down with the milk and cream and went back to his truck. Not too far away, the 5 o'clock whistle blew at the industrial laundry where Spike's old friend Rocky worked. He thought of Rocky starting up his laundry wheels in the steamy, gasping heat and smiled. He would see Rocky later, perhaps tonight, when deliveries were done. Spike started the truck and drove on. A little transistor radio hung on an imitation leather.
In 2 miles, use the second from the right lane to take exit 185 for I-275 west toward airport.
Imitation leather strap from a blood-stained meat hook which curved down from the cab's ceiling. He turned it on, and quiet music counterpointed his engine as he drove up to the McCarthy house. Mrs. McCarthy's note was where it always was, wedged into the letter slot. It was brief and to the point. Chocolate. Spike took out his pen, scrawled "Delivery made" across it, and pushed it through the letter slot. Then he went back to the truck. The chocolate milk was stacked in 2 coolers at the very back, handy to the rear doors because it was a very big seller in June. The milkman glanced at the coolers, then reached over them and took one of the empty chocolate milk cartons he kept in the far corner. The carton was, of course, brown, and a happy youngster cavorted above printed matter, which informed the consumer that this was Kramer's Dairy Drink.
In a half mile, use the second from the right lane to take exit 185 for I-275 west toward airport.
Dairy Drink. Wholesome and delicious. Serve hot or cold. Kids love it. He set the empty carton on top of a case of milk.
Use the second from the right lane to take exit 185, then slide left onto the I-275 west ramp.
A case of milk. Then he brushed aside ice chips until he could see the mayonnaise jar. He grabbed it and looked inside.
Slide left onto the I-275 west ramp.
Looked inside. The tarantula moved.
Continue on I-275 west for 24 miles.
Tarantula moved, but sluggishly. The cold had doped it. Spike unscrewed the lid of the jar and tipped it over the open carton. The tarantula made a feeble effort to scramble back up the slick glass side of the jar and succeeded not at all.
There's a speed trap ahead.
But there is.
Succeeded not at all. It fell into the empty chocolate milk carton with a fat plop. The milkman carefully reclosed the carton, put it in his carrier, and dashed up the McCarthy's walk. Spiders were his favorite, and spiders were his best, even if he did say so himself.
All right, folks, it's been an hour and 4 minutes, and Google is having me go this way, so we just missed seeing the Cincinnati skyline. If I'd have went forward on 75 about another 2 miles, you'd have seen Cincinnati spread out there like a little Lego city, but I'm going this way because Google said so, and because I'm on 75 every day. Going up this way to 74 won't break my heart. All right, folks, remember this. Be good to your friends. Be good to your family members. Be good to your loved ones. Be quick to say you're sorry. Be even quicker to accept an apology, especially when that thing your friend, family member, or loved one has done seems to be so huge you'll never be able to forget about it. Because constant viewers, my beloved riders, at a time you think not. your friends, your family members, your loved ones, and your life will depart from you.